Hey folks, this is Billy DKY, the truth seeker who simplifies and demystifies. This is going to be UFC 109 predictions, Randy Couture versus Mark Coleman. Okay, before we get into the predictions, I have a proposed MMA scoring system. I have two videos out there, which I will put a playlist for UFC 109 at the end of this video, and you can click on it. And there's, like I say, there's two videos within that playlist. And you should watch them if you're interested in changing the MMA scoring system, or if you're curious what I got to say on it. And the first video is new MMA scoring system and hyphen preliminary. And the second video is hypothetical fights under the new MMA scoring system. So anyway, like I say, the playlist, I'll give the playlist at the end. Okay, on to the fight. The fight between Randy Couture and Mark Coleman all boils down to, I think Randy Couture is better at everything than Mark Coleman. I think that's what it all boils down to. You know, in my mind, I ask myself, I don't see Mark Coleman out wrestling Randy. It's possible, but I just don't see anybody really out wrestling than Randy. You know, I mean, Naguera was having his way with him, but he really wasn't. He wasn't able to stop Randy, you know, and Naguera's a bigger guy and, you know, much better grappler than Mark is. And really what I see is Mark really only has one tool. It's ground and he's a strong, bully-minded guy, and, you know, ground and pound is his specialty. And really that's sort of Randy's specialty too, you know, clinch and then wrestling and then grounding you, pounding you out some way, beating you down. So they're really the similar kind of fighter. And then I asked myself, can Mark Coleman outstrike Randy? And I'm like, not really. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. Is it possible? Sure. Can he out-strategize Randy? That I'm pretty convinced he cannot do. I don't see him out-grappling Randy. I think he's a better grappler on the ground. I think he's probably better in the clinch. So it just looks like Randy's a better version of Mark Coleman all the way around. And to me, this is really a bad matchup for Mark Coleman. I just don't see him having a lot of answers for Randy. I don't see him really having any answers except getting on top of Randy, mounting him, and beating him down, which that is a huge task in itself to get him there. And I think Randy can bust him up or soften him up with strikes before that happens. Okay. Next thing, as I mentioned in my video, Into the Mind of Randy Couture, Randy has learned to yield to win in the octagon where Mark hasn't. Mark is still a bully-minded guy. He's still carrying that wrestling bully-minded attitude or mentality from wrestling into MMA, and he hasn't evolved to learn how to. He hasn't learned how to yield to continue on to win. Where Randy started out that same way, but Randy yielded and learned how to evolve. So basically, what I'm saying is, Randy has evolved more than Mark Coleman, and that's really what it's all going to boil down to. Who knows what would have happened back in the day when Mark was the man, but anyway. Okay, so this is how I see the fight unfold. Like I said, I only see Mark Coleman having one real answer for Randy Couture, and that is to get the full mount on him and beat him down, which I don't see Randy letting that happen, I don't see he's going to be able to pose his wheel on Randy. So I think that's really all Randy has to avoid, really. And getting overconfident, I think, would be another thing. You know, because typically Randy don't win if he's not the underdog. So, or if he's the favorite, he typically don't win. So, I don't know. I'm assuming he's the favorite in this. I haven't looked it up, so that may be a wild card in there. Okay. I basically think this fight's going to go however Randy Couture wants it to go. I think if he wants to strike, he can strike him, because I think he can keep him off of him. I think if Randy wants to clinch and try to put him in the ground, I think he eventually could do it. But, you know, Randy's going to have, I think Randy's going to try to have the smartest strategy to fight Mark Coleman, which I think, like one more point before I get into the strategy I think he's going to employ. We have never seen Randy Couture knock anybody out that I can remember. If I'm wrong, please tell me, but I don't think so. So I don't see that happening. So what I see, here's what I see, how I see it unfolding. I see Randy striking with Mark, because I think he's going to have a little bit better hands. I think he's going to soften Mark up on the feet. And when he gets Mark hurt, then he's going to push Mark up against the fence, clinch with him, put him on the ground, get him up, wedge him up against the fence, and then stop him with ground and poundage. That's what I see happening. And I don't know. there may be a few other scenarios, but I can't really see many more scenarios than that, panning out. That's sort of how I see it going. I mean, Randy could avoid the strikes altogether, which I don't see him doing. I think Randy's got the better hands. Okay, things to consider. Both guys are old, but Mark seems to move older than Randy, and I think, but anyway, I won't get into that. From what I see him, just their movement, the way they move, Randy seems to move younger, and Randy's been looking younger to me lately than he did back in, I can't remember if it was 101 or something like that. He's looking a little old to me for some reason. But anyway, the wild card in this, Mark Coleman seems to have nothing to lose, so that may be something that I'm underestimating, that Mark may be coming with that. He's put everything in it, and maybe that makes a difference that I'm not expecting, so that'll be interesting to see. Another point, Mark seems to be doing this fighting out of necessity, where Randy seems to be doing it out of passion because Randy loves it. He wants to compete. He wouldn't care if he's doing it for free. He'd still do it, I think. So, and I'm not convinced Mark would. I think somebody says he's broke or something, so I don't know if that's true or not. Basically, I see the probability breakdown being 65% Randy Couture winning and 35% Mark Coleman winning. And as I mentioned earlier, I have a playlist out there which I have that Into the Mind Randy Couture, plus the 2 videos on the new MMA scoring system, which I think you should watch. I think you'll enjoy it, and I think you'll probably agree with the most part that it needs to change in that way. And if we all do our little piece, to spread the word, then I think eventually we can get a system out there that basically rewards people who end fights. That's what it all boils down to, ending fights. Punishment maybe sort of in there, but it's really about ending fights, and that's how it should be rewarded. So anyway, like I say, the playlist up there, and until the next video, later folks.